Coffee or tea to survive early mornings?
Oh, coffee by far.
What's the weirdest thing that's happened during a live broadcast?
Someone mooned me. No lie. I didn't expect that one. That's truth.
Who has been your most memorable interviewee?
I interviewed my father about being a trailblazer at Towson University, one of the first 2 black players for Towson basketball.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for watching this episode of Advice with Rice. This week, we've got Jason Newton from WBAL Television. You've all seen him before if you've turned on a television in the past 10, 11 years in Baltimore. So let's dive into this interview and get some advice from Jason. So, Jason, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you, man.
Well, so I got to ask,
Okay.
and our research department really dug deep on this.
Okay.
We talked to some of your childhood friends, and they said that when you were young,
Yeah.
and you have to tell me how young it was.
A long time ago.
A long time ago, when you were young, the job you have today is what you wanted to do.
Yeah, okay, so maybe not a little bit. Listen, I remember days, Al Sanders was a guy, that's what comes to mind on Channel 13, a competitor. And there was something about someone that looked like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be surprising for me to repeat what he says and parrot it back. But as I got older, man, I wanted to be a pediatrician. I wanted to be a doctor. And I went to Maryland. I took organic chemistry once. I took it a second time. Third time, I thought I'd nail it. I mean, the poor professor, when he saw me coming the third time, he's like, come on, man. And so I knew that was not going to be for me. And I found these folks over at the journalism school at Maryland who they believed in me, and they gave me a chance to understand, you can do this stuff. You just have to do the work. I mean, when I was there for biology, if there was a basketball game, I was there. If there was a party, I was there. If it was a trip to DC, I did it because I thought that was the experience.
Yeah.
And I quickly found out that wasn't. So
you're from Baltimore,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And would you say it is a dream to be in your hometown
Yeah.
working in the field that you work in?
No doubt. I was in Salisbury for a bit and then Milwaukee, and I probably would have stayed in Milwaukee forever. And there was a chance to come back to BAL. And at the time, mom and dad were still living. Dad's alive now. Lost mom last year. Aunts and uncles. And just, there was something about proof of progress, or it was the biggest thank you that I could give to family members who put up with me through formative years, or just lent their time to me.
Yeah.
And so to be in front of them and to be doing what, I don't know, I felt like it was to show the things that really paid off for me.
Yeah. Explain to us, and I know and I sort of understand it, but the course that you go through, the progression you make when you want to be in journalism and you want to be on TV,
Yeah.
from starting to a small market. You talked about Salisbury.
Yeah.
Sort of explain that and then talk about what your experience was through that.
Yeah, Salisbury, if you think of it like baseball, Salisbury was the minor league. It was a place where you could mess up every day to a point.
Did you mess up every day?
Dude, I was so bad. It was just I can't believe that I'm still employed.
What mistakes were you making?
Not factual errors, but I didn't know how to dress, or I didn't know what I was supposed to sound like. There are times when you look up the street sign, you say I'm on East Fairmont, but you're on West Fairmont. All of these things.
Yeah.
And thank God for stations like that take your time and are very forgiving. Because as you progress from AA ball to the big leagues, those things you just can't do anymore.
Yeah.
So it really, it helped you in those things, but it helped you build a little bit of crust as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was an introverted kid. I would have never knocked on somebody's door as a kid to go ask them a question. And it was like muscle memory. You do it enough that it becomes something that, I can do this.
Yeah.
But it takes a while for you to understand what that job is all about.
So let's go back 4 more years before that.
Okay.
You grow up here, you decide to go to Maryland.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience at Maryland. Aside from taking the classes that you thought the third time was the charm.
Oh yeah, third time was not a charm. Maryland definitely was you hear people say find yourself. Well, it was really a find yourself moment. There's something about going away to college and understanding it's all on you. The responsibility is what I love about college. You get up on your own. Mm-hmm. You do your own laundry and dishes if you're in a suite. You figure out the schedule, and it's all on you to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
My biggest issue besides classes at first was credit cards. I mean, you go and it's like, oh, a free T-shirt just for something, and I get a credit card, great. And so it's those learning examples of understanding what an interest rate was and how long it's going to take me to pay it off. There were so many learning experiences, man, at College Park and in college in general. And then you meet these lifelong friends who I still talk to. I mean, I have a running text chain right now of 5 guys that I met in the dorm.
Yeah.
And once or twice a year, it's either a football game or a basketball game we go to.
That's
and
great.
who knew that you're going to meet guys who are totally different from me, who we still have the same conversations about the same stuff like it took place yesterday.
Yeah.
No.
When did you decide that you wanted to pursue journalism in college?
I think it was a point, it was a very tough time to make that decision because I knew how poorly I was doing. And at the time, my father was an administrator there. He worked in the president's office. And he knew where things had gone south. And he never said anything. It was never like, hold your feet to the fire. Oh, you got to get this done. But he let me sort of drown a little bit and paddle my way back up. And honestly, I was looking for things where the credits I had would make sense for me to keep doing. But I was always a consumer of news. And I was like, this could be, I knew how to write. And I felt like I was a good creative person.
Yeah.
And I felt like all those things could come together. So Sue Copen was one person. And Dr. Lee Thornton, who was a really trailblazer in journalism, saw something in me. And thank God they did. And so I just went with it. And
Did you think you were going to be, a lot of journalists, they say, well, I'm going to go into print.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into radio. I'm going to go into TV. When did you decide that TV was the medium that you wanted to be in?
There was an allure about television. I think the moment I went in, I don't think print was something I wanted to do. There was something about the local anchorman and local news reporter because they're like these local celebrities and you knew their names, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
But also, there's something about knowing stuff before other people.
Yeah.
There's something about being on, the field at the Orioles game. There's something about being at the inauguration.
Yeah.
Like all these things are exciting to me. It might sound boring to some folks, but like it was like cool. I met, I shake the mayor knows my name.
Yeah.
And there's something to that. And then to add in that you're in your hometown, which I never thought would happen. Like it's real, I don't know. There's something about going back to my elementary school and at least seeing one teacher is still there. Or, I've walked into the grocery store and I've seen people who are in 2nd grade and I recognize them.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that experience in Milwaukee because it was Milwaukee.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something cool about it.
Did you do any TV in college? Like, were you working at any TV stations in college, or was Salisbury the first TV station that you started working at? Yeah.
Salisbury was the first real market. Like in Maryland, we did our own newscast.
Right.
And then I did some internships, where I think that every kid should do, whether you're a lawyer or an accountant or a TV person. That I think that's what sells it.
Yeah.
Like that's what tells you what will be fun. And I always say this, and I'm sure I stole it from a million people, is that if you aren't having fun, then don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like the moment it's not fun anymore, like when you don't want to go in the courtroom anymore, man, go open up the whatever you want to do on the
Sure.
side,
Right.
And every day is still it's still fun. It might be challenging and it might be hard. I always tell the story about organic chemistry because it's 50-50. I think it reminds me that, Jason, listen, you've been through a whole lot of work. You can get this done.
Sure.
But I think it's also so that I can relay it to either my kids or to a college class I'm going to. It's like, yes, this is all hard. Yes, you're miserable. I went to this class at Hopkins last week. And I said, who's having fun? And no one raised their hand. And I was like, listen, yes, this is probably miserable. It is probably competitive, but you stick around because you're having a good time.
Yeah. In the progression of television reporting and journalism, sort of what I was alluding to earlier, you said you work your way from a small market. Do you remember what Salisbury was at the time?
It's probably close to 200.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
And the numbers are based on the number of viewers. So like New York is 1,
Right.
LA's 2, Chicago 3, right? So you were at a 200 market you start out with. You then go to Milwaukee, which is do you remember what?
Like somewhere in the 30s.
Okay,
40s.
so that's a big jump.
Yeah, it was a sizable jump. I was kind of shocked myself. And then Baltimore's like in the 20, 30 range, somewhere in there.
When you get to Milwaukee, you said something a little earlier about this. Were you thinking, you know what, I'm going to pay my dues here in Milwaukee and then I'm going to make it to Baltimore eventually?
Well, the interesting thing about that was in Salisbury, I'd gotten to a point where I wasn't sure of myself. And I got out of TV. And I got out and went to UMES and taught kids to do stuff like this, shoot video, light a set, put mics on, blah, blah, blah. And I loved it. I'm from a family of teachers, and that was great. But it just wasn't feeding me. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It may be fun 10 years from now. It wasn't fun then. And so I found Milwaukee. I hired this agent. I said, listen, I want to get back in TV, but it has to be East Coast. Like, I just don't want to travel away. He's like, how about Milwaukee? I was like, well, the East Coast of like a Great Lake? Like, I don't know what is the East Coast of. And so once I got there, and it's very similar to Baltimore, like there wasn't I wasn't looking to come home. Like I wasn't out looking for a job. We had our second kid, bought a house, had a dog. And then Hearst came knocking. I was at Hearst Station. They came knocking, and there was a position there, and rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been at WBAL for, I think,
11
years now? Is that right?
11, 12 years.
Yeah. When you got here, did you think, this is it? I've found the place I want to be.
Dude, I was so starstruck. So I walk in and it's like Donna Hamilton and Stan Stovall and Rod Daniels and Tom Tasselmeyer. Like these are names. I won't say how young because I'll make them seem old. But these are like household names.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
One of my first assignments was Donna Hamilton and myself doing the lighting of the Washington Monument. And I took so many pictures of us together that I'm sure that she thought, what is wrong with this kid? My parents came up and said hi, and cousins were there. And so, yeah, I hope I'm answering the right question here. But it was, man, it filled me up. Like, like it was over the top. It was this sense of, do I belong?
Yeah.
And then they were just so nice. As they welcomed me in, that now I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was so starstruck.
Well, so let me get this part of it, the advice as to how do you get to your dream place. What advice would you give somebody that's, let's say, about to graduate in journalism and they want to end up, getting to your hometown, working in the industry that you've chosen? That's pretty tough, right, to do, and probably a little bit of luck.
Sure.
But what advice would you give somebody?
As far as industry goes, whatever it is, and we kind of talked about it earlier, is be a taste tester, man. Like, you have to taste the meal before you order it if you get the chance to. Do an internship. Find out if, you might be dying to be in front of the camera, then you see it for 10 minutes, you're like, I don't want to do that. Or you might be a producer and like, I don't want to sit in front of this computer all day long.
Yeah.
So it gives you a chance to understand. Listen, professors can tell you all they can from the front of the classroom, but there's no replacement for actually doing it and feeling it and seeing it and touching it and absorbing it. And then you can understand what it is. And then once you get there, like, don't waste the opportunity. And take some chances, like do things that you normally wouldn't do. I remember the first time it was someone was accused of a horrific crime. I had to go knock on their door. And it took me a good 10 minutes in the car to say, Jason, you got to do it. If you want to feed your kids tonight, you got to go knock on that door. And it was the longest, 3 steps to this guy's front door. And granted, he yelled at me and I was at the door. But and he also said, if you knock again, I'm sending my dog out. And I'm like, just act like he didn't say it. Act like he didn't say it and turn around and thank him. But take some chances and take a risk and find what's fun. If you get there and it's not fun, then make it fun.
Yeah.
But you got to take some ownership, and then also realize that you're starting at the bottom.
Yeah.
So do all the little things so that you're no longer at the bottom. Do all the menial tasks. I know it's hard. We all want everything right now. But do some little things and get some of those points back.
Yeah.
So
now you're doing your anchoring at 5 and 11 in the news. You do some stories and you prep obviously for your TV Hill on Sundays.
Yeah.
Do you miss knocking on doors or standing out in front of a burned out house at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night?
You're gonna think that I'm crazy when I say it, but I do, man. There is something about this job is about people. You know what I mean? There's something about hearing people on their best and worst days that does something. There's something about, there is this smell, and it's gonna sound crazy. There's a smell that goes along with stories. Like a house fire, and it's regrettably it's someone's worst day.
Yeah.
But there's something about the fuel from the fire truck as it comes by.
Yeah.
There's something about the traffic going by on busy traffic days. There's something about, watching a waiter feverishly trying to serve me, like all that stuff. And you don't get that in the studio.
Yeah.
There are days I'm kind of jealous. Tori Yorgi is one of our reporters, and Jim Franciotti does it too. They go out to Ravens games and they're at tailgates.
Yeah.
There's something about the smell of tailgate and not knowing if this guy next to me is drunk and going to jump in front of the camera or if he's going to be the best interview ever.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll admit it. I do miss some of that also. But there's also something about, being the coach with the headset on and sort of directing things, directing traffic. And there's a skill to that. The teleprompter, yes, is a great thing, but there's something about knowing that if it went out, I've read enough that I know I can get through this story.
Right.
And some days I'm like, go ahead and turn it off. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? But there's a joy. Like, make it fun. Find the puzzle, and I like that.
Do you? What kind of observations have you noticed in your years of being in journalism? And it's been a big change from technology has provided us the ability and cell phones to have journalism being done a lot easier than it was done, say, 10, 15 years ago.
No.
What have you noticed the biggest changes in your field, and how has that sort of played into how you do the news?
I think that what we're up against is in all of our pockets right now. I think that why should I wait till 5 o'clock when I can find out now? Why should I? Yeah, we love that Newton guy, but he's not going to tell me the story until 11 o'clock, and maybe I've heard it already. And so we have to find a way to counter that a little bit, to be not a little. I don't need us to be fast and first. I need us to be accurate and relevant. And I think part of being relevant is being there often and early. And if someone down the street has a camera, they're able to do the same thing off their phone, then great. But do they have the same sources that we do? Are they accurate? Are they giving me the full story? And I think that's where we have them beat. So we have to find a way to marry. We have to find a way to marry Instagram and TikTok into television, which is tough, and we're trying. But I think that's the beast we have to fight.
You mentioned it's better to be right than to be first or fast, right?
Yeah.
What's the danger? I mean, we obviously know the danger of not being right. Mm-hmm. How much is that in the back of your mind every day?
Oh, all day long. We'll get tips. I have some friends who may call and tell me something's going on, and easily I could call or start tweeting it out and be like, "Yeah, I heard this from somebody." Yeah. But who am I helping? Is it self-serving or am I helping people out there? And is it going to change by 2 minutes after I hit send? Is it going to be accurate? So, fine. Someone gets it out before us. That's fine. But if I get it out with some details that they don't know and it's accurate and it's right, I think that's the jackpot. Yeah. I just hope that 19 to 30-year-old range gets that. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things is, you ever been to a red light and you're behind the car and it doesn't move when it turns green, and they're there and they're there and they're there and they're scrolling. And so how do I get on that feed and be as relevant as what they're watching right now? I mean, granted, they may be texting somebody, but and they probably 9 times out of 10 they probably are, and you might be representing them. But yeah, like, how do you get on there? Like, how do I make sure that before they go to bed and they do that last scroll, that they see something relevant from us? Yeah. And I think that's what we have to figure that out.
Where do you think? I mean, we've had this big swing now where, like, you can interview people by Zoom. Yeah. Right? That's been a huge change in broadcast, where you don't have to bring them in the studio. You don't have to go to them. You literally just link them up with a Zoom or some sort of video call, and you can interview them. Yeah. What's the next big game changer in your mind?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think that something a la carte news will happen there, where I know the story. I know. Let's say I'm offering 18 stories, and I've told the website I like sports, I like gardening, and I like a little bit of crime in my neighborhood, and I can order it. And then every time it pops up on my feed from WBAL, I see those stories in a row. Yeah. Rather than we deep tease something at 6 o'clock that really is not going to air until 6:25, I can tell the computer I want to see this. So that might be something. Yeah. And maybe there's something interactive that happens. Mm-hmm. I'm curious of what AI does. But yeah, I think the viewer having a little more control somehow might be in the future.
What are your fears of AI?
Just it comes to wrong. News. I do fear deep fakes. I fear people putting someone on television and it's not represented correctly. Mm-hmm. Because we're scrolling, we're going by so fast, is the consumer taking enough time to figure out if that's legit? And I think 70% probably think it's legit. The number of times that people have sent me something and it's like, and it could be something like, I sent something, this is totally off topic. There was this video of this guy, he hits this golf ball behind his house, there's this flock of birds flying, and he nails this bird and the bird falls to the ground. And he runs over, and it's a cut, there's a sequence in there, he runs over to check. The joke was, I got a birdie. But it's legit, like it looks legit. He definitely hits that ball. That ball definitely went up left, and the bird, it seemed, definitely fell. And I remember sending to my buddy, I was like, what do you think? He's like, that's totally fake. Like, he knew the moment I sent it.
Sure.
And I looked at it like 10 times, and I knew that, I was like, it can't be. Like, how did he line all this up? So if you're able to buy something that looks that real, then is that Tom Cruise interview real? Is that really Brandon Scott or is it not? Did Wes Moore really sit next to, Grimace in a cabinet meeting or
Yeah.
no? How do you, and I just worry that people are going to fall for these things.
Do you think the government may have to step in and the FCC says, hey, look, we're going to require that if you do use AI or any type of generative tool, you have to put a warning on there?
Sure, but I mean, you tell the bartender not to serve a 21, under 21-year-old. You know what I mean? So I don't, and we know that it happens. Yes, they could, and maybe that helps. But I think that it's got to be one of those morality things. Like you got to know not to do it, but it's too sexy not to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think someone has to put a safeguard on it. I just don't know I don't know what you do.
Yeah. You mentioned Brandon Scott. What's your take on, you see it every day, you're obviously reporting on it. What's your take on Baltimore City right now?
I'll talk to you as a citizen of Baltimore.
Okay.
I feel for young people who don't have an outlet right now. Yes, there have been some very tough crimes that have been committed by young people. As a father of teenagers who has the means to send you to football, to send you to flag football or to the Y, to give you experiences on cruise ships and come to Paris for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Kids don't get that. Kids want time, essentially. Mm-hmm. And when they don't have your time or your attention, you see what you see on the street. One man can't fix it. One police department can't fix it.
Right.
One rec center can't fix it. But if we can collectively say, this is our focus, then let's do it. Like, why not? And maybe a program may have to go to the wayside so that they can't be funded. It hurts me to see young kids that look like me robbing somebody on the street, and it's clear enough video you can tell exactly who they are. Mm-hmm. And Randolph, it pisses me off. Like, it makes me upset that someone isn't in their life.
Yeah.
Or a group of kids, not one of them says, let's not do it. And it's on us. Like, it's on us to find something, to help them. So I wish, and I come from a place of 8 principals have gone through my family. We've had a teacher of the year in Baltimore. My father was a college administrator before he retired. And I know what it's like when my mother gave pancakes for pops and all the fathers came and had breakfast with their sons. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do we have more pancakes for pop to scale that up?
Yeah.
And so if I can't blame any one person for it, but I just think we could do better by them.
You mentioned family, 2 boys, teenagers.
Yeah.
What's your advice on raising 2 boys, right?
Yeah, it's a fine line. There are days you want to be dad and the days you want to be a friend. The days that you want to take it easy on, the days you want to lean into it. Mm-hmm. I would just say don't try to be something that you're not. And give them the authentic you. Let them see. My boys have seen me cry. They've heard me swear. They've heard me be happy. They've seen me be sad. And let them see all of you. I'm proud of them that they've found their own way. And hopefully between my wife and I, we've given them enough ingredients to become good guys. Yeah. There's nothing more satisfying. You've probably seen it with your 16-year-old. When they have a conversation with an adult and you don't chip in. And then you hear them say something, you're like, how did you know that?
Right.
He said something to me about political the other day, and I'm like you were watching that? And so there's something there's something that makes your heart beat, or to see them hold the door for someone,
yeah.
Or to call their grandfather on their own and be like, hey, thanks for helping me with math.
Yeah.
Or just to walk in the house, to see my son hug my father, and dad's not asking for a hug, he just comes in and gives it to him. To see a kid have heart, to see them fight. My oldest, if he sees this, he hated school at the beginning, and now he's playing trumpet at BSA and waiting for college acceptances. Yeah. To see that, it lets me know that we did something right. I think being authentic is my sole advice.
Earlier this year, mm-hmm. you were in Paris for the Olympics. Tell me, you got to have great stories.
Man, there's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. I was giddy from the moment they asked me to. And the funny thing is, I'm a white knuckle flyer. I get on planes sometimes, and I'm just just get me there. That was the most relaxed flight ever in my life. And then to get on the ground and to see what I've seen on television since 1980 something or 70 something in front of you, and then to the Eiffel Tower. I wake up to the Eiffel Tower every day. And then, we hear about the world at odds, and to see all these people just having fun or having a beer together. I sat with these, I think it was, who was it? It was, I think French basketball was playing, and they won, and we're at a bar, and they all break out and sing the national anthem. Like, dude has tears coming down his eyes. And then, so it was that element. And then there was a finding yourself element, too. There's nothing better being in an iconic city and just going for a walk. Fear of nothing. I'm on the subway at 11 o'clock at night. I don't care who's on there, man. I'm smiling. I mean, people had to think there was something wrong with me. I'm smiling ear to ear for 2 weeks straight. And then to see these elite athletes do what they're doing. I went to water polo.
Okay.
I thought I would go and there'd be like 10 people there and I could sit wherever I want. Every seat's taken, standing room only, and everyone is like living on every point.
Wow.
And then we leave in this mass of people and get on public transportation, and they're still singing national anthems all the way to the hotel.
That's crazy.
And that was every night.
Yeah.
And then to see some TV folks who, you emulate a little bit, or you just, you're fanboy about. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So to ride that, do you think, and maybe hopefully the people at BAL are not watching, do you think that you ever want to be on national TV?
I never wanted to until then.
Really?
Had zero desire to. I didn't want to be a correspondent. I didn't want to travel every week. I didn't want any of that headache. But there was something to be said. Again, so the fun at this was a puzzle. And puzzles come up. My father's a mathematician, so I like math. But the puzzle for me was I had 30-some stations we would do daily, right?
Right.
I had to remember their names. I had to remember the cities. I had to remember the hit times, and I had 3 different stories lined up. I had to remember which one they had. There was something about that. And it was something about being, maybe like the first person to let people know that this just happened overnight.
Yeah.
I love the energy, man. Like it was, I don't even know, I can't even put into words, but there was something about the excitement that went along with that I just loved.
Did you tell your wife that?
No, I didn't say that. No.
Because that means that's a lot of travel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that would maybe be a required move.
So this probably isn't going to happen. But given the opportunity, if I could do it, if NBC came and says, listen, 2 years, give it a shot, I would definitely do it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it was that fun.
Well, maybe when the boys are the house is empty.
Yeah, maybe when the house is empty. Listen,
right?
I know it's not going to happen. But if I ever, let's say, got the chance to do the Olympics again, I would. There's no question in my mind.
In a heartbeat.
Oh.
Well, you got 2 years. You can do it in L.A.
L.A. There's winter is in Italy.
Yeah. Oh.
Think of the food, man. I come back 100 pounds heavier. Like it's you can't lose.
When you're not at work.
Yeah.
What do you like to do?
I'm a terrible golfer, but I love the solitude.
Yeah.
I love that. I love cutting the grass. Like all the dad things.
Yeah.
I sit at the window and drink my coffee. No. But no, I do love golf. How
are you playing right now?
There are days when the ball is in the fairway, and there are days the ball it's like it's allergic to the fairway. So that's fun. But I found photography, and I love doing that. I love taking pictures.
When did you start doing that?
So my brother was huge with taking pictures. He had a Nikon camera, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. And so I was it may have been when I just got back to Baltimore. He bought me, he said, what do you want for Christmas? I want a camera. So what I didn't understand is that when you buy a real camera, it doesn't come with the lens. I'm opening this thing up, I pop it open, I was like, well, where's the rest of the camera, man? He's like, well, that's all I got you. You can buy your own lens. So I was like, that was 6 months of me saving money to find a lens for it. But the moment that you take a picture, and I love it in black and white, you switch it to black. I took one on the way here, actually, of the Pratt Library, because there's something about the way the sun hits that in the shadows.
Yeah.
There's something about a black and white photo in a world that just stands still for that brief moment that I just absolutely love it.
Are you putting your photos out to the public, or is this just for your own personal
like
consumption?
On Instagram. Like,
okay.
I went for a long time of strictly posting news stories and all that stuff on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I just got tired of the comments.
Yeah.
I hate comments on stuff that people just decide that, they just want to be nasty just to be nasty. It's like, well, you can't be nasty about a cat. Can't be nasty about leaves in my front yard. But it's also therapeutic, man. It's like, I've left, I don't know if you're aware, so Under Armour is right on the water downtown. They have this football field that's out there and all that stuff. But it's a perfect spot to get the sunrise. And so I sat there one day on this pier. It was so cold. And sunrise comes up, and I'm shooting my camera. I sent the drone up and got pictures of this ship coming in. And it was probably one of the most fun days of doing nothing, or mornings. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning that I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
There's
great.
something about those images, man, that just, I don't know, does it for me. Yeah.
Sounds like it's therapeutic.
It definitely, yeah. I saved a lot on going to a therapist.
All right, so now we're going to do the lightning round,
All right.
okay? This is easy. There's not a hard question in here.
I promise not to ramble.
First thing that pops into your mind. You
Okay.
ready?
Yep.
Okay. Coffee or tea to survive early mornings?
Oh, coffee by far.
How do you prepare for big interviews?
I read a lot.
What's the weirdest thing that's happened during a live broadcast?
Someone mooned me. No lie. I didn't expect that one. That's truth.
Who has been your most memorable interviewee?
I interviewed my father about being a trailblazer at Towson University, one of the first 2 black players for Towson basketball.
That's great. That's great. What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
The guilty pleasure TV show is the one where it's a dating show and they go on these pods, and I can't think of Love is Blind.
Okay.
I'm gonna get so much hate for that.
How do you handle live TV when something goes off script?
I love it when it goes off script. I thrive. I don't know. I feel like it's a test, so I just plug ahead.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oof, anything Stevie Wonder.
I like that. Okay. Would you rather be too hot or too cold?
I would rather be too cold.
Last time you got asked to take a selfie?
Like yesterday.
What's the story you've reported on that changed your perspective?
A story that I've reported on that changed my perspective. I think I did a story with kids who were either recovering or in treatment for cancer, and you have no idea how much more brave they are than an adult.
Yeah. What's the most unexpected thing that's happened to you on air?
Gosh, how much time do you have? The most unexpected thing that, they surprised me with America's Vet Dog, a dog that was named after me. I've partnered with America's Vet Dogs to get dogs to veterans to just sort of return life to them. And one day on the morning show, the dog Newton shows up, and I had no idea that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Flying over the handlebars, so I didn't know what was the back brake or the front brake.
Who's been your biggest mentor in your career?
My parents.
If you weren't a journalist, what would you be doing?
I'd teach math.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
What's your guilty pleasure food?
Vanilla chip from the Charmery.
How do you like being the interviewee and not the interviewer?
I'd rather be sitting where you are.
How do you decide which stories to prioritize?
Stories that have heart that I think will speak to people.
Okay. What's your favorite Maryland tradition?
Hearing the fight song at Terps games.
Are you enjoying this interview?
I am.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
After seeing Paris, I got to go back.
Yeah, not Milwaukee. Paris is the
Listen, Milwaukee Spotted Cow beer is great, but they cannot top Paris.
I think you've answered this. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Total introvert.
If you could time travel, would you go to the past or the future?
Past.
What would be your dream story to cover?
I would love to cover a Super Bowl. Well,
Okay. With who playing in it?
oh, come on, man. It would be Ravens, and Ravens would win.
Ocean City or Deep Creek Lake?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Is it snowing at Deep Creek?
It's up to you.
I've never gone skiing, and I want to, so Deep Creek.
Okay. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It would be probably my mother's gumbo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. What'd she put in it?
I have no idea, man, but I've tried to duplicate it, and I don't even come
Can't do
close. Yeah.
What's your dream vacation destination?
I would love to know what Bora Bora looks like.
What's your biggest pet peeve on set?
Well, that's outs everybody.
Tough questions
Randolph,
here.
I don't know if I can answer that question because they'll know exactly who I'm talking about.
You
So
wanna
how about
pass?
this? No. How about this? My pet peeve in general is when is not being prepared. If you're not prepared.
Okay. How do you stay current with news across so many topics?
Reading.
What's your go-to news source?
I like Time Magazine. I like going to their feed. I like the way they tell stories.
Okay.
It's basically through social media. I've become a fan of the Banner. I like the way they tell stories.
Okay. What's your hidden talent?
My hidden talent, I am a big fan of putting things together and tinkering. So this weekend I put a new heating element in the dryer. and I love doing every second of it.
Is it still working?
It works, and the clothes are dry.
There you go. What's your proudest moment in journalism?
Was winning an Emmy Award for a story I did about my dad.
That's great.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, this one goes in my house is a big deal. I'm a big old school Clark Kent Superman. I'm talking Christopher Reeves.
Okay.
Can't beat him.
Okay. If you were a flavor of ice cream, what would it be?
Oh, it's the Charmery multi-vanilla chip. Can't beat it.
Aside from the gumbo, what's your favorite comfort food?
I like Belgian waffles, a nice crispy Belgian waffle.
Who's your celebrity lookalike?
When I got here, the number of Urkel emails I got, it got a little out of hand.
Do you get asked a lot if you're Stan Stovall?
I've been called Tim Tootin, I've been called Stan Stovall, and once I got a Dave Collins, which I just don't know where that came from.
If you could instantly learn any skill, what would it be?
Oh, it would be to play an instrument, to play like piano or saxophone.
What's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
To take risks, to don't shy away from them.
Okay. What's your celebrity dream interview?
Oh, that's a good one. I should be careful with this. I would love to interview Barack Obama.
Okay. If you could swap jobs with anyone for a day, who would it be and what would you be doing?
I would love to be a pilot of something. Airplane, helicopter. There's something about the number of videos that I watch people landing planes or taking off from aircraft carriers is amazing to me. But as a passenger, it's frightening. But there's something about being in control of that gigantic machine. It's kind of cool to me.
We know you can see at 5 o'clock
Yeah.
and at 11 o'clock
Yes,
every
sir.
night on WBAL TV.
Sundays 11:30.
Sundays 11:30. Where else can people find you?
On a random golf course, Baltimore School. Well, now you're asking. Baltimore School for the Arts. 2 of my kids are there. Go to a concert there, and close your eyes and listen. Or go to a dance recital there and put your phone down. You forget that these are kids.
Yeah.
It is by far. I will champion them. I'm a City College guy. I love City. There's no school better. But number 1A is Baltimore School for the Arts.
Jason, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, man. Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem.